Here is some information about how to play the clarinet region band Etude. First of all, note that it starts off at andante, which is a quarter note is equal to 68. So make sure you get a metronome out and start working on it like that. Let's look at the key signature right here. There are no sharps, no flats, so you're going to be playing B naturals and F naturals for the most part. Notice there are going to be quite a few accidentals, those sharps written in throughout the whole piece. You'll see a bunch of them. We'll go over them fairly in depth here. Let's first talk about the F sharps. You have an F sharp here, you have an F sharp down here, and you have an F sharp right in here. So that make sure that you play those F sharps. Now I'm fingering this F sharp here on the right, which is like the low G flat F sharp on the right to then low E here. Up here the F sharp is just first finger. There's no need to play it any other way. Let's make a note of D sharp. It's going to be fingered like an E flat. So that would be fingered with the E flat on the side key. So it's thumb, 1, 2, and the first side key on the right. This D sharp you can finger the same way. There is a special fingering, 1 and 2. If you know it, great. If not, just finger it on the right hand side, just like you do this one over here, and it'll all be fine. This F sharp, notice it's going to be middle finger because it's in that octave up there. This F sharp again is the low, just first finger only. Same here, first finger only. C sharp is going to be fingered just like this F sharp except with the register key. It's going to be fingered on the right. Now we have an A sharp. Just in case you don't remember it from your chromatic scale, from going up on the chromatic scale, it is the note between A and B in the chromatic scale. This A sharp is fingered just like a B flat, but it very much looks different. So make sure you remember that A sharp fingers like a B flat, but it sure doesn't look like one. And then we have a C sharp, and over here we actually have a B flat. Now let's come over here. When we look at this part right in here, it is very much just a chromatic G, G sharp, A sharp, B for those 5 notes. Just part of the chromatic scale. So it's pretty simple. This G sharp over here is going to finger just like that C sharp except with the register key. So now that we've got the basic fingerings out of the way, if you need to go back, please feel free to use a fingering chart and make sure that you've got all of that going really, really well. So now let's talk about just some general things like articulations. This is very smooth throughout for the most part. It's very smooth. Even where you see these accents, it's going to be a fairly smooth accent, more of a weighted, kind of a heavy woo, instead of a really hard tongue accent. Notice that you're going to have places where you tongue and then lots of slurred places. Make sure that you tongue where it says to tongue and that you slur where it says to slur. All the way through, you've got lots of slurs and tongues intermingled. So make sure you do those things. Now we're going to talk a little bit about some rhythms. Note here we've got this triplet, and it's got triplet, or in this case it would be 3 lolly. So that measure would be 1, te, 3 lolly, 4 te, 1. Correct? Good. Now if we come over here, notice those just look like eighth notes. They don't have a 3 on them, but they are still triplets because this would be beat 1. Those 2 notes together is beat 1. Here, this quarter note would be beat 2. So those would be 3 lolly, 4 lolly, 1. It's the same thing in this measure. All of this is beat 1, 2 lolly, 3, 4. And notice you end right here, so you don't need to worry about any of the rest of it further down. That's where you're going to end. Couple of other things that are really, really important. Make sure here that you tie those 2 notes together so that you have 1.5 beats, and that B natural is going to play right on the te of 2. So it'd be 1 teta, 3 ta, teta, 4 ta, teta. Okay? And you've got that in multiple places where you have to think about a tie. Here you've got a dotted 8th and 16th note going into 16th notes, so it's inside this note is the 1 T te, and this is the ta. So it's 1 to 2 to te to 3 off. Make sure you hold those quarter notes out, especially when they have a quarter rest or any kind of rest at the end of them. Make sure you hold it exactly as far as it needs to go. Here's another of those places where there's a tie that's 1.5 beats long. And here's another one of those places. Actually, this is only 1 1/3 beats long because these are triplets. So it'd be, you have to think here, 1 T te ta 2, and you go, when you get to the 2, you switch thinking to the lolly. 1 T te ta 2 lolly 3 lolly 4 lolly 1, and you'll be just fine on that. This one is a little bit more complicated. Like this one is the 1 T te ta 2, 1 to 2. Here, this note is the same length as this note, but both of these are on the same length as just this one. So it's 1 T te ta ta 2, 1 T te ta ta 2, 1 ta ta 2. Make sure when you're looking at this that you look at dynamics. Notice it starts piano. You've got mezzo forte here, which means you're going to have to do some crescendoing to get there, right? And you're going to continue to crescendo to get to this forte. And then I decrescendo this part here from that low note to that upper E. I decrescendo, so I get softer, and then start this a little bit louder at mezzo forte. Notice down here you have a forte with a crescendo, decrescendo, and a continuing diminuendo or decrescendo all the way to the piano here. So really do a lot of dynamics. Make your softs really pretty soft and your louds really pretty loud. They have to be pretty sounds no matter what, though. You can't ever play softer or louder than you can play with really good sound. Make sure in this measure that you do not play 8th notes. They are not. It's 1 te, 2 to 3 te, 4 to 1 te, 2 te. Now here I'm actually putting in a breath, and that's really okay. 1 te, 2 te, and that'll work. You don't have to worry about worrying about that breath right there, because that's a really good place to take a breath. We may talk about other places to take a breath, but that's the most important things there. Hopefully I've gone over most of the things. I will try to think of some other things and come back and update this, but in the meantime, that should be enough to get you started. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.